we. And the question is not what we can't do, but what we can do when we all join together and are willing to fight together for common causes. I believe that sincerely with all my heart, and I just see my role as being a part of the we. I want to thank God for my good friend Pete McDowell and my partner in crime, Al McShirley, who's back there pouring coffee or something, and Miss Turner, who drove us this morning, and to all of you. We are friends. We're just family. That's why I went around and hugged everybody. We got to bring some hugging back into this stuff, Margie and Cynthia. But in the reality, we all better be hugging each other, and we better be holding on to each other, especially in the times in which we live. I want to thank you for allowing this adjustment. I had a dear mother of the church to pass this week, and we've got to go say goodbye to her mortal remains. We know we can't catch her spirit because it's already gone, but we want to say goodbye to the mortal remains of her memory on today at 2, so I'll be slipping right out, and that's the only reason that we come in this family, because I actually love to just be in the number and to learn. And I know all of you have already put February the 9th on your calendars, and we're going to let's bring 10,000, at least 10 to 15,000 people to Raleigh for HK on J this year. I was telling Steve that now the NAACP, we're committing 7,500. We're turning out more. We started last year, but we're pushing out this year. And our national chairman has lifted what you all are doing and what we're doing together as a model for the nation. And so we need, right at this point, every organization just to mobilize. We need to mobilize people. It doesn't matter who they are, to turn out on February the 9th. And I'm going to leave Al here. He's going to say a few things. Hopefully Peter get a moment to give some statistics, some details about meetings, when our next meetings are. But let me just this morning talk for a little while about you can't put new wine in old wineskins. And I think that's something that we really have to wrestle with. And I'm always challenging my progressive and liberal friend, don't throw away all of your faith, and don't throw away all of the things we learn from our faith just because we get upset sometimes with traditional religion. That's a fundamental principle of moving forward. You can't put new wine in old wineskins, because the old wineskins will burst and they can't maintain or hold on to the newness. And I want to talk a little bit first about why I'm here as president of the NAACP. Can y'all hear me if I don't use this? You okay? Why? Yeah, can you hear me? Okay. First of all, I'm here as president of the NAACP, and I'm a writer, you all. I've noticed now a lot of folk get up, and a lot of our presidential candidates, and they're practicing this thing of not talking without notes. But one of the things I know about that is then a lot of times that means they're not thinking anything fresh. I'm not tied to notes and those kind of things, but I like, what we saw in the days of King and other folk who wrote things down. First to preserve them, but more importantly because it meant that they were constantly thinking. I don't know if you've ever gone down to the King Library and seen how he would be scribbling and doing stuff on the side of pieces of paper. Constantly thinking. And I want you to know I'm constantly thinking about what it means in this state, in this time, to be president of NAACP for the larger movement. And one of the reasons I accepted coming here today to Progressive Democrats, because I'm not here, first of all, to preach partisan politics. Long ago, the NAACP learned that if our nation and state was going to have fundamental public policy shifts, somebody had to be non-partisan. Not for Democrats alone or for Republicans alone, but for justice alone. Now, to say we're non-partisan, because I heard something go out the room just then. By saying that I'm non-partisan doesn't mean that we're non-political. That's a different statement. We believe somebody must champion a vision that does not change though political personalities change. a vision that keeps calling for change as long as racial disparities and injustice exist, a vision that keeps saying to each new crop of elected officials, you can't get elected and then just go back to business as usual, putting new wine in old wineskin. You cannot make flowery promises during the campaign and then have political amnesia once you get elected. Somebody has to keep saying that. That's fundamental to your conference. You know, what happens when representative government is no longer representative? And that's why the NAACP, at its origin, and we haven't always maintained it. Sometimes we've messed it up in NAACP. But in its origination, when it was organized by whites, primarily, because the NAACP was never intended to be a black organization, but a civil rights organization. And the largest number of the original leadership was white. The original chairperson was white. And it was a combination and a mixture of blacks and white who decided that in order to have fundamental shifts, you must have an organization that will speak to anybody, will challenge anybody, that will lay out their vision before anybody, because we had this fundamental belief that we have no permanent friends and no permanent enemies, only permanent interests. I don't know how many of you have been to websites where there's this icon that says drill deeper. You ever been to a website like that that says drill deeper? And so the more you click on that icon, the further you go, and the more information comes up on the site. And originally, that was what the call of the NAACP was, to drill deeper, to build broader coalitions. It was to push society to go beyond what was politically feasible. And I want to challenge some of us on that. Because while you may do some things that are politically feasible, you won't ever have a movement just by encouraging folk to get what's just politically feasible, because that won't inspire people. Somebody has to go beyond what's politically feasible and fight for what's morally and constitutionally right. In the face of overwhelming odds, and you must say that it can happen tomorrow, even if in your gut you might not believe it may not happen for 5 years, but you don't ever, but publicly you say, we can make this happen tomorrow. And we can. If we don't get deceived. See, we don't really know what could happen tomorrow because we haven't stayed together long enough to figure it out. We haven't raised enough hell to figure it out. We haven't really pushed. Sometimes even among activists, what we've done is if we have a little fight, then we start operating what's politically feasible and we don't stay. We don't really know what could happen if we would put 50,000 people in Raleigh and believe that. We haven't seen that yet. We don't really know what would happen if this coalition under HKJ of 75 organizations, if all of us truly stay together, and if none of us refuse to go in the back room and cut a deal just for our little piece. We don't really know what will happen. We don't really know what will happen if the president of the NAACP keeps refusing to sit down with any gubernatorial candidate unless they'll meet with me and my friends. We don't know what that looks like. Because, see, they don't believe we serious yet. They think we just having a moment. And it's up to us to prove that something fundamentally